So in this video, we're going to be discussing whether or not Judge Benitez's decision in the California assault weapons ban case will end up stopping the state of Washington's ban. So let's talk about this. But real quick, before we jump into this video, I want to thank everybody who's been supporting the channel. Right now, we are actually approaching 500,000 subscribers. So if you're not currently subscribed to the channel or you've been a long-time lurker, please consider subscribing to the channel, help me reach 500,000 subscribers. But regardless, thank you guys so much for all of your support. Also, I want to thank the sponsor of this channel, which is Lear Capital. Last year was a terrible year for most investors, and 2023 could be even worse with the talk of a bad recession. The one thing that has always remained true over human history is the value of precious metals. And I'm doing this through Lear Capital because they have 25 years of experience in this area, thousands of 5-star reviews, and also a risk-free guarantee that lasts up to 24 hours. So if you're interested in investing in precious metals, I highly recommend you check out Lear Capital. You can check them out using the phone number here on the screen, 1-800-920-8388, or by going to learscholar.com, and you can start purchasing precious metals and gold right now. As I mentioned in the intro, in this video, we will be discussing whether or not Judge Benitez and his decision in Miller v. Bonta, which is the California assault weapons ban case, will in fact have any impact on the state of Washington's new assault weapons ban. So in this video, we're going to be unpacking that. We're going to be talking about whether or not that's actually true and what impact the Miller decision will actually have on the state of Washington. Now, for those not aware, Miller v. Bonta is a challenge to the state of California's ban on so-called assault weapons. Under California Penal Code Section 30515, the state of California bans various types of firearms based on their characteristics. For example, a semi-automatic centerfire rifle with a detachable magazine cannot have something like a flash hider, a collapsible stock, a forward vertical grip, and if it does, then it's classified as a so-called assault weapon. The Miller case was originally heard in the Southern District of California before Judge Roger T. Benitez, or Saint Benitez as he's called in California. In the original review of this case, Judge Benitez found that this case was an average case about average guns using average ways for average purposes. In reaching his decision, Judge Benitez used a standard review that has now essentially been affirmed by the Supreme Court, and that type of analysis was text as informed by history and tradition. After he struck down the California assault weapons ban, the state of California then decided to appeal that decision up to the Ninth Circuit. Then the Miller case ultimately was sitting at the Ninth Circuit level because there was a backlog of cases that were waiting for the Supreme Court to rule in the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen decision. Now, once the Supreme Court issued the Bruen decision and struck down the state of New York's May issue scheme, struck down the use of the two-step approach, and affirmed text as informed by history as the correct constitutional analysis, this case, Miller, along with a bunch of other Second Amendment cases, were remanded back down to the lower courts, including Judge Benitez, for him to reconsider all these cases using that new decision by the Supreme Court. While we were waiting in California, another state in the Ninth Circuit went ahead and passed their own version of an assault weapons ban, and that was the state of Washington. The state of Washington copied some of the language that appeared in the state of California, but they also went ahead and expanded on that language. In Section 2 of the Washington assault weapons ban, one of the first things that the state of Washington did is they created a list of makes and models that is specifically in naming these types of firearms, or a list of firearms, as so-called assault weapons. This is similar to what California did initially with their ban in the creation of the Roberti-Roos list. California also has an express list of makes and models that the state of California bans. Here in the Washington ban, in the bill that Washington passed, there is expressly named 65 firearms that will now be considered as so-called assault weapons. The state of Washington also included a catch-all provision with some of these sections where they say anything like an AR-15 or similar firearms will in fact be banned. The Washington bill also incorporated a characteristics ban. Washington actually learned from the state of California in that law and made it much more inclusive in the state of Washington. They even went as far as to ban fin grips, any use of a muzzle device, even a muzzle brake or compensator, any use of any forward grip, even an angled grip or a hand stop, and also any threaded barrels. Washington also went ahead and targeted the purchase and sale of parts and conversion kits. So even parts, a combination of parts, conversion kits on their very own in the state of Washington are going to be defined as so-called assault weapons under the bill. So as you can see, the California assault weapons ban and the new Washington ban are very similar in some regards, but also the Washington bill learned from California and added some other sections. Now, a lot of people believe that Judge Benitez and his decision in the Miller v. Bonta case will effectively end the Washington ban as well. Now, I want to point out some of the reasons why maybe that's not totally true, and kind of walk you guys through why I think that the Miller case, while important and can help Washington, it's not correct to say that just because Benitez rules in Miller, that the Washington ban will also just completely go away. First, the Miller case is attacking only one section of the California assault weapons ban. Now, as I mentioned, there are two different sections in both of these laws. There is the makes and models list, which is that list, and then there also is a characteristics ban. This Miller case only targets the characteristics ban in the state of California, which is under California Penal Code Section 30515. There is a different case called the Rupp case, which is a more holistic attack on the California assault weapons ban, and that targets both the Roberti Roos list, the makes and models list, and also the characteristics ban. So even a best case scenario in the Miller case where we get a favorable decision, it will only impact the characteristics ban and the certain configurations that are outlined in the California law. Also, it's important to note that the Miller case is in the Southern District of California. That is a federal district court in California. Although California federal courts and Washington federal courts both sit under the Ninth Circuit's umbrella, that doesn't mean that one district court's ruling is then binding on a different one. Generally, district court opinions are not binding on other district courts or on courts of appeals. For example, many courts of appeals, like the Seventh Circuit, have expressly stated that a single district court decision has little precedential effect and is not binding on other district court judges in the same district. So in some situations, a district court decision is not even binding on the other district courts in the same district, let alone in different district courts in different states, like we're dealing with here in the state of California Miller case, which is a federal district court in the Southern District of California, and any district court, federal district court case that may pop up in the state of Washington. There is a situation where, depending on the federal district court judge who is selected in the Washington federal courts, that maybe that judge could adopt a similar theory that maybe is used by Judge Benitez in his decision if that decision is potentially favorable to the 2A cause. But that judge in Washington is not bound by precedent and is not required to adopt any decision that Judge Benitez issues. Also importantly, if there is a state court and litigation in state courts, that state court judge in Washington is even more so not bound by any federal court decision by Judge Benitez in the Miller case, which is in the Southern District of California. Really, for the Miller case to have any binding effect on the federal courts in Washington, it would ultimately need to make its way up to the Ninth Circuit before a 3-judge panel or the en banc panel. There would need to be a favorable decision, and then that would be binding on all the federal courts that fall under the Ninth Circuit's umbrella. But currently, we are very far off from any Ninth Circuit decision on this issue. We are still currently waiting on Judge Benitez to issue his decision. So a positive ruling in Miller is helpful for Washington and the ban in Washington, but it's not like a decision by Judge Benitez in Miller will just completely erase what is happening currently in the state of Washington. The Miller case doesn't even erase all the things that California is doing with its assault weapons ban. So as you can see, the situation is much more nuanced than you might hear some people claim. It's not simply that a positive ruling in Miller will also override what's happening in the state of Washington. There's a lot more nuance to this, and based on what happens, there's a lot of different avenues which could take place. But it's just not simply as true to say, well, a positive ruling by Judge Benitez in Miller will then overturn what's happening in the state of Washington. So if you have any questions, go ahead and comment down below, and I will try to answer to the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and you would like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm, and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of 2A news. As always, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, and helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do on my own. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.